Good evening and welcome to the Hairenik Media Newscast. In a statement that has sparked widespread controversy and debate, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has responded to criticism over the loss of Artsakh, claiming that Armenia has not lost Artsakh but found the Republic of Armenia. Speaking in Parliament during a budget debate, Pashinyan said the conclusion came after what he called a long period of reflection. According to the Prime Minister, for decades, Artsakh was used as a political tool, one that, in his view, prevented Armenia from becoming a truly independent and sovereign state. The remarks have provoked intense reactions from both political leaders and the public, with critics accusing Pashinyan of reframing a national tragedy as a political milestone. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan met with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in Istanbul on Friday. The two leaders discussed efforts to normalize Armenia-Turkey relations, emphasizing continued dialogue and concrete progress. They also addressed regional developments and potential areas of cooperation. Pashinyan reaffirmed Armenia's commitment to peace and stability in the region and expressed readiness to deepen ties and promote long-term regional cooperation. Both leaders pledged to maintain direct communication and exchange views on Armenia-Azerbaijan peace process and Yerevan's Crossroads of Peace initiative. During Pashinyan's visit to Istanbul, no representative from the Armenian Patriarchate of Constantinople met with him. The Patriarchate remained closed throughout his visit, and Patriarch Sahak Mashalyan was reportedly abroad. A video showing a cleric greeting Pashinyan was later clarified to feature a Catholic priest, not a member of the Armenian Apostolic Church. Pashinyan visited the Holy Mother of God Armenian Cathedral in Istanbul and lit a candle before his meeting with the Turkish president. However, notably, no Armenian clergy were present to welcome him at the cathedral. While Pashinyan met with Erdogan in Istanbul, a wave of arrests targeting opposition figures, activists, and civil society members began Friday in Armenia. The Tavush for the Homeland Movement, ARF, and the Republican Party reported widespread unlawful detentions and raids across the country. Human rights groups condemned the arrests as politically motivated repression. According to preliminary data, dozens have been detained without clear cause. The Interior Ministry claims the arrests are tied to suspected plans to disrupt public order. Critics see this as a politically motivated crackdown aimed at silencing opposition during a sensitive diplomatic trip. In a major developing story from the homeland, prominent businessman and philanthropist Samuel Karapetyan, owner of the Dashir Group, has been arrested and ordered to remain in detention for 2 months. His arrest follows a raid on his Yerevan apartment by Armenia's National Security Service and comes amid escalating political tensions. The arrest comes shortly after Karapetyan publicly expressed support for the Armenian Apostolic Church and the Catholicos, drawing sharp criticism from Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, who recently escalated his rhetoric against the church. In a pointed statement, Karapetyan said, "If politicians fail, we will intervene in our own way," a comment that has now led to charges of publicly calling for the seizure of power. As a Russian citizen, Karapetyan's arrest has drawn attention in Moscow. Both the Russian Presidential Press Office and Foreign Ministry confirmed that Russia will provide him with consular support, citing his citizenship and legal rights. The fallout from the raid continues, with reports confirming that 45 people associated with Karapetyan were detained, 2 of whom suffered broken arms due to excessive police force. Vehicles were also impounded, and supporters have since gathered in protest. Meanwhile, a series of inspections and fines have targeted Karapetyan's businesses. The Electric Networks of Armenia was fined 10 million dirhams, operations at the Dashir dairy factory were suspended, and 30 pizza Dashir establishments are under inspection. Critics argue that the timing suggests political retaliation tied to Karapetyan's defense of the church. The Mother See of Holy Etchmiadzin condemned Karapetyan's arrest, calling it an act of anti-church repression. The statement accused the Pashinyan government of trying to isolate the church from its supporters and warned of the reputational harm being done to the Republic of Armenia. Similarly, the president of Artsakh National Assembly, Ashot Danielyan, denounced the government's treatment of Karapetyan and the church, warning that such actions are deeply troubling for every Armenian who is guided by national ideals and feels a sense of responsibility toward their homeland and people. Adding to the political tension, the director of the National Security Service, Abrahamyan, was dismissed just hours before Karapetyan's arrest, reportedly for refusing to carry out the Prime Minister's arrest order. Pashinyan addressed the move in Parliament, saying only it was time for Abrahamyan to rest a little. Abrahamyan is now the fifth National Security Service director to be dismissed under Pashinyan's government, raising serious concerns over instability and politicization within Armenia's top security body. The dismissal has sparked public outcry, particularly among families of missing soldiers who protested in Yerevan. Demonstrators insisted that Abrahamyan played a crucial role in efforts to locate missing servicemen, warning that his removal could jeopardize ongoing investigations and searches. The case continues to attract widespread attention as questions mount over political freedom, institutional independence, and the rule of law in Armenia. Dikran Abrahamyan, MP from the I Have Honor faction, has sharply criticized the aftermath of Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's recent visit to Turkey, calling the adoption of pro-Azerbaijani resolutions at the Organization of Islamic Cooperation Summit in Istanbul the first flowers of that visit. Abrahamyan highlighted the Istanbul Declaration, which supports the right of Azerbaijanis to return to so-called Western Azerbaijan, a term increasingly used by Baku to describe parts of Armenia. He accused the Armenian government of abandoning the rights of Artsakh Armenians, including the principle of collective return and territorial claims, and failing to protect national interests. Azerbaijan is pushing its territorial agenda through international platforms, Abrahamyan warned. The authorities have led the country into a Turkish trap, where Armenia's only role is to endure and remain silent in the face of ongoing pressure. On June 20, Azerbaijani forces shelled a home in the village of Nerkin Hund. Though no injuries were reported, the village remains under threat, with 15 Azerbaijani military positions inside Armenian borders. The attack coincides with border talks under the 1991 Alma-Ata Declaration, part of a broader peace negotiation. Armenia is witnessing a sharp increase in arrivals from Iran through the Meghri checkpoint. Taxi prices from Meghri to Yerevan have tripled. Over 600 Chinese nationals have crossed into Armenia since the outbreak of the Iran-Israel conflict, according to the Chinese embassy. As of May 21, the term of Artsakh's president has expired, but no successor has been named. The delay stems from the military occupation of Artsakh by Azerbaijan and Armenia's shifting positions. Another reason is the security situation in the region and the challenges and threats arising from it. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev has set a new precondition for a peace deal with Armenia, insisting that the return of Azerbaijanis to what he terms their ancestral lands within Armenia is essential for lasting peace and reconciliation. Speaking at the International Symposium of Ombudsmen in Baku, Aliyev framed the demand as a fundamental human rights issue, signaling a significant shift in Baku's negotiation stance. Meanwhile, during an official visit to Turkey, Aliyev and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan publicly reaffirmed their close alliance on the Karabakh issue. Erdogan praised the swift reconstruction in the territories Azerbaijan refers to as liberated, and expressed optimism that a peace agreement with Armenia would accelerate regional development. Aliyev's visit came just a day before Pashinyan's trip to Turkey, highlighting the ongoing diplomatic activity in the region amid ongoing tensions. In a rare moment of unity between the ruling majority and the opposition, Armenia's National Assembly voted down a controversial bill that would have allowed individuals to pay a fee to avoid compulsory military service. In an unusual twist, the bill's author, Civil Contract MP Haik Sarkisyan, also voted against it, reversing his earlier position. The decision reflects uncommon agreement between the ruling majority and opposition on this sensitive national issue. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova responded to Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's recent remarks, stating that Armenia cannot align with both the Eurasian Economic Union and the European Union simultaneously. She emphasized that Armenia's benefits from the EEU outweigh what she called baseless promises from Brussels. Questioning the sincerity of the EU's intentions, she asked whether Armenia is truly being welcomed or simply being used as a geopolitical tool. On another note, Zakharova confirmed that Russia will support detained businessman and Russian citizen Samuel Karapetyan amid his politically sensitive arrest in Armenia. The Central Council of the Armenian Cause has raised alarm over increasing Azerbaijani threats to Armenia's Syunik region amid rising regional tensions. In a statement, the Council accused Azerbaijan of trying to assert control over the strategic Armenian territories through regional connectivity projects, particularly the so-called Zangezur corridor, warning that any such attempts violate international law. The Council urged the international community and relevant organizations to act swiftly to prevent Azerbaijan from exploiting global instability to pursue territorial claims. It also called on Armenia's allies to reaffirm support for Armenia's sovereignty through security guarantees, diplomatic efforts, and stronger strategic partnerships. Iran's ambassador to Armenia reiterated Tehran's commitment to regional red lines, including opposition to the proposed Zangezur corridor. While Iran does not seek escalation, it remains prepared to defend its interests. The ambassador warned that the conduct of regional actors today would shape their future ties with Iran. Following Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear sites, Armenia's Nuclear and Radiation Safety Center reports no abnormal radiation levels in southern regions, including Mehri and Kajaran. Monitoring is ongoing, but so far the environment remains safe. On June 19, 1920, Armenian avenger Aram Yerkanyan assassinated Fatali Khan Khoiski in Tiflis, modern-day Tbilisi, launching Operation Nemesis. The ARF coordinated mission sought justice for the Armenian genocide. Khoiski had orchestrated massacres of Armenians in Baku and other cities. Yerkanyan's act marked the beginning of a campaign that targeted genocide perpetrators across Europe. A promising new initiative is offering hope and opportunity to displaced families from Artsakh. The ACAA Artsakh Fund, Eastern Region USA, has launched a new livestock microloan program to help displaced Artsakh families rebuild their lives in Armenia through small-scale farming. The initiative provides low-interest loans for bull raising, a profitable low-risk venture. Families receive 4 bulls, plus support for feed and vet care, with repayment due after 8 months at just 5% interest. The first of its kind sustainable model aims to foster long-term economic empowerment. To learn more or to donate, visit acaainc.org/Artsakh. And now we're joined by member of the Armenian Parliament, Ms. Anna Grigoryan. Thank you for being with us today, Ms. Grigoryan.
Good evening.
To start, Iran, which has consistently emphasized the inviolability of borders since the 2020 war, now finds itself the target of military attacks. Meanwhile, Azerbaijan continues to push for the opening of the so-called Zangezur corridor. How real is the threat of renewed Azerbaijani aggression today? And is Armenia taking adequate steps to counter or neutralize this threat?
You're thoroughly correct that because of the attack against Iran, the threat of the so-called Zangezur corridor is even becoming more, and there is a lot of uncertainty in this respect. You know, yes, you're right that after the war of 2020, the main demand by Azerbaijan and Turkey side was the so-called Zangezur corridor, and the main obstacle was the position of Iran, and even Erdogan once during one of his interviews clearly stated that the main obstacle is Iran. So having stability in our neighborhood, having security in our neighborhood is number one priority for us, because we know that if we have weaker Iran, Azerbaijan can start a new aggression against Armenia and against Syunik region where I myself come from. You know that after the war of 2020 and the thorough occupation of Nagorno-Karabakh, Azerbaijan together with Israel has established certain intelligence services in the occupied territories bordering Armenia and Iran, and Azerbaijan really is waiting for the right chance to start the attack, and fortunately until today today we see that there is no such opportunity for Azerbaijan. But another thing I would like to mention, because I come myself from Kapan, is that Iran has opened consulate in Kapan, which was another security guarantee for people living there. It was a specific message to Azerbaijan and to Turkey that we're standing together with territorial integrity of Armenia. They're standing with the people of Armenia. And so, hence, having security in our neighborhood is number one priority for us. Unfortunately, the United States of America has engaged in this war, which has increased the uncertainty for us. But so far we have about 100 and more Iranians crossing the border, trying to find secure haven in Armenia. But I think if this is going on, we can have serious security challenges also in this respect, because massive immigration into Armenia can cause serious consequences also for security reasons. The other component of the question, whether Armenian government does enough to deter these security threats, I think no, because if you somehow follow the internal politics of Armenia, you might see that the main agenda of this government today is the attack against Holy Church of Armenia, and so it seems that nothing else interests this government rather than these internal political issues and targeting Holy Church of Armenia.
As a reminder, our guest tonight is member of the Armenian Parliament, Ms. Anna Grigoryan. Ms. Grigoryan, since 2022, Pashinyan has maintained that the Artsakh conflict should be resolved without mediators through direct negotiations with Azerbaijan. However, his recent meeting with Erdogan in Istanbul, where the primary focus was the normalization of Armenian-Azerbaijani relations, raises questions. Does this signal that Pashinyan is seeking to replace the OSCE Minsk group with Turkey as a mediator in talks with Azerbaijan?
Yes, we see that Pashinyan is trying to make Turkey mediator, and has also claimed that he is in favor of dissolving Minsk group chairmanship, the format that has formed by the international community to solve the issue of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. That was a demand of Azerbaijan to dissolve this format, and it seems that, however, the statements were so that Pashinyan is for the dissolvement of this format. But you know that there is another precondition by Azerbaijan for normalization of relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. That's the change of constitution. The change of constitution, this is the main obstacle, as Azerbaijan claims, and I see that Pashinyan was trying to persuade Erdogan to have its impact on Aliyev, so that the treaty can be signed without the change of constitution, because Pashinyan himself understands that this change of constitution is a serious process, and the majority of Armenians will never go and vote for the change of the so-called in the format that Aliyev and Pashinyan think. So I think that yes, he's trying to make Turkey the main actor in the region, Erdogan, the main person to mediate between Armenia and Azerbaijan. But on the other hand, I need to say that Pashinyan, whatever he does, has internal context. Before the elections of 2026, he's trying to gain any document, any treaty which has the name Peace Treaty, so he can be re-elected. So all these steps are done for this reason. Going to Turkey without specific agenda, because until today we do not know what has been negotiated, whether there were any agreements made after this meeting. So he is trying to get this deal with Azerbaijan, and he was trying to persuade Erdogan to have its impact on Aliyev. But we see that the change of constitution is one of the main preconditions, and even after the meeting with Erdogan, we clearly hear the voices coming from Baku. They say that the Zangezur corridor is number one priority for them, and also the change of constitution. So we see that there was no achievement as a result of this meeting with Erdogan. Even more, it has exacerbated the situation concerning this mediating format. So Minsk Group co-chairmanship, as we believe, cannot be dissolved. This is a format where international community can be involved to have its impact on Aliyev.
MP Ana Grigorian, thank you very much for joining us. That's all for tonight's broadcast. Thank you for joining, and don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X. Good night.